Cool. All right, everyone. If you're sitting in the back or on the side, feel free to grab a seat because a few opened up. And know that we will have a coffee break coming up around 3 o'clock, I believe. So next up, we're going to switch over to a presentation about privacy. If you have been paying attention to the news at all, privacy is a hot topic in tech, and it affects us in multiple ways as a person. So if you think about it, as a marketer, like you're really interested in data, it helps you do a better job. As a business, you might be sensitive to it because there's more fines that are occurring. But as a person, you're kind of like, I don't know, it's my data, I want to protect my privacy. So it's just this really interesting, multifaceted topic. One good sign that it's reached a fever pitch is that it finally made it into Mary Meeker's Internet Trends report. She wrote, there's a privacy paradox surrounding data collection for profit, where data needs to be used to enrich people's experiences without betraying their trust. So with that said, I'm excited to welcome Jessica Taylor, the Director of Marketing at Keepsafe Software, who'll be speaking about the privacy paradox. Thanks, Jessica.
So how many of you are concerned about your online privacy? Okay, fair number. And how many of you are doing everything you can to educate yourselves about your privacy and protect yourselves? One person. Yeah, okay, that's about right. In a recent EpiServer survey, a couple of months ago, they asked marketers in the UK about privacy. And 24% of marketers said that they believe that privacy is an outdated concept. But 94% of consumers said that they would be unwilling to give their personal data over for more personalized product recommendations. And only 10% of marketing firms said that they believed that their use of online and third-party customer data was a problem. And I realized that I'm not switching my slides very well. So we find ourselves in a situation a little bit like this one. And today I'm going to tell you guys all about how I came to privacy and what everyone in this room can do to influence privacy and technology. So 2 years ago, I joined Keepsafe Software, and the founders are German, and they told me privacy is huge. We have this mobile app called Keepsafe Photo Vault, and 50 million people have installed it, now 75 million. And I thought, really? How come I didn't have any idea that privacy was huge? So the first thing I did when I got into the role was I surveyed our users, and I asked them, what do you use Keepsafe Photo Vault for? And I got 6,000 responses like this one. And at that point, I realized this job is going to be a whole lot more interesting than I thought. So Keepsafe has a family of simple privacy and security apps. When I started 2 years ago, we had 2 apps. We had our flagship Keepsafe Photo Vault app, and we had an app called AppLock. In the past year, we have launched 3 new apps. We have Keepsafe VPN, we have Keepsafe Unlisted, which is a burner phone app, and we have Keepsafe Browser, which is a private browser. So I learned a lot in the past year, launching 3 different apps, and I'm going to share some of what I've learned about privacy with you guys. So last year, a fellow at Stanford named Susan Athey worked with 2 colleagues at MIT to study the privacy preferences of undergraduates. And they researched 3,000 undergrads about their privacy decisions. And what they found was their privacy decisions are influenced heavily by incentives. In fact, the overwhelming majority of the undergrads that they talked to were more than willing to give over 3 of their friends' email addresses in exchange for a free pizza. So the study concluded that people are willing to relinquish their private data when they're incentivized to do so. So what the privacy paradox says, it's the disconnect between how much people say that they value their privacy and what they actually do in real life. So we, as marketers in this room, have our own privacy paradox. Our customers say that they want privacy. But when we look at their actions, what they show is they want convenience. And we want more customers. So we're also tasked with being the voice of the customer. So what do we give them? Do we give them privacy, or do we give them convenience? And if we want more customers, then we sort of want all the customer intelligence we can get so that we can be the voice of the customer. Think about it. How many of you in this room would like to have less customer intelligence? No one, not even the person from Mozilla. So we want as much customer intelligence as we can get. And the reason for that is because the more we know about our customers, the better we can target them and market to them. Can we, as marketers, actually solve the privacy paradox? It sort of seems unlikely, right? We're all here today at Mobile Spree because we use Adjust Analytics and Attribution Platform. How do we reconcile our goals as marketers with what our customers actually need and want, which is privacy? So I'm here today to tell you marketers can save the day, and here's why. We're all in the room when product decisions are being made. I'm going to give you 5 simple principles that you can take back to work and think about and address the real privacy concerns of your customers. So this is the first principle. Does this customer data really improve value to the customer? So for those of you who don't know, this is a snapshot, a screenshot of Venmo. It is a popular app for paying your friends back. And it has one fatal flaw, which is that every transaction that I make is public to everyone in the world by default. That means that you guys know exactly where I went to dinner last night and with whom. It seems really unlikely that this product decision came from a customer insight. Because why on earth would I want my financial transactions app to double as a social network? I wouldn't. So this is something we all need to ask ourselves when we see mocks. And the problem with Venmo is pretty soon you have something like this. In fact, LendEDU did a study of millennials, and 30% admitted to paying for drugs using Venmo. Because that's kind of something you want to keep private. Okay, this example is Google Maps. And I think, the question is, why is Google Maps asking me for access to my microphone? I'm looking up directions. And you might say, well, there's a case. Voice search is a thing, right? That's probably why. But I would guess that if you looked at the data, few and far between of their users are actually using voice search when they're looking up directions. And the truth is that I looked at support forum after support forum, and customers are complaining that Google Maps also asks for their call and phone history, their calendar, And I know that there is a well-meaning engineer in Mountain View who believes that he's delivering convenience for navigation purposes, but it comes at the cost of privacy. So the point here, the principle is, if you're not actually going to use the data, don't ask for it. There's a corollary point, which is, if you are going to use the data, tell them when you're done using it. So this is an example that we're considering doing at Keepsafe. We have this burner phone app, and we know that the vast majority of our users like to purchase phone numbers in their vicinity. So if we know where you're located, we can show you phone numbers in surrounding area codes really fast. But the thing is that once you've purchased a number, we can also tell you we don't actually need to know where you're located anymore. And we can prompt you and tell you to turn this off. And this is something that I'd like to see industry leaders start to adopt. It's a powerful way to build trust with your users. The fourth principle is to have easy to understand privacy policies. What you see here is Keepsafe's privacy policy broken down in 4 simple principles. Now, your legal department is not going to like this one. One of the reasons that we have these lengthy, unwieldy privacy policies is because our legal department's job is to mitigate risk. But if you actually ask them to break down your privacy policy to its essence, they can do that for you. And you, in turn, can do it for your users. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we all lived in a world where our users actually took the time to read the 4 principles rather than breezing right through them? The 5th principle is design for privacy. Now, we all know that Apple has been a leader in this space. And as people have become more and more vocal about privacy over the past year, Apple did something really remarkable. They launched iOS 11.3 last spring, and they introduced this data and privacy icon. And what they said was, we're going to be explicit and alert you every time we ask you for personal information. Another thing I really love about this statement from Apple is that they talk about privacy as a fundamental human right, because it is. So that's it. 5 simple principles that you guys can take back and address people's real privacy concerns. The first is, make sure that the data that you're providing actually provides value to the user. And it's your role as marketers to be the gut check in the room as the voice of the customer. Number 2, make sure that if you aren't going to use app permissions, not to ask for them. Number 3, if you do ask for app permissions, tell the user when you're finished with them. Number 4, break down your privacy policies into easy-to-understand principles that your users can actually understand. And number 5, design products for privacy. Thanks. I'd love to hear what you guys are doing, especially Mozilla, to protect people's privacy. Also happy to answer questions. Yeah?
Hi, my name's Xavier. I'm from the original Burner app.
Nice.
So we're in a similar space here. And I was wondering, we're trying to be very proactive with how we're dealing with user data as well. Like, we don't collect emails, obviously we have phone numbers, but I see comments in Reddit threads now being like, oh, this particular app has this SDK called Adjust in there, and like, they're using all your marketing data for this and this and this, but how are you, and that's also caused, us to question like partners we're working with, and like that causes everything to go to legal, because what are these other partners keeping and retaining our marketing data for? And so just to try to be a proactive player in that sphere. So I was wondering how you're working or understanding that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I was just gonna.
Just because like you're saying like, oh, don't be bad. We're not doing it. We're trying to help you, not take your privacy, et cetera. But how do they trust you as well, or us?
Yeah, I was going to show, I was going to go back by a couple of slides to show those principles. Mm-hmm. One of them, we're pretty transparent. We look at data to improve ourselves. There is discussion, I'll be honest, inside the company of can we be a little bit more explicit, right, about our partners there. It's a delicate balance, but we do try to be transparent about that piece of it. We're only using it for ourselves. We're not giving it to any third parties, except the ones that help us improve our performance, and Adjust is a good example of that. Also, Adjust, also a German company, so pretty buttoned up in terms of privacy. And I think that's another important check, is to make sure that whoever's making those decisions within your company is making sure that the partners you're using are buttoned up. Anyone else? Come on. Yeah.
I think you find too that, so yes, Mozilla, we're both from Mozilla. And this is like a constant internal battle for me, because I'm a performance marketer by trade, and somehow I've ended up at Mozilla, where I'm not allowed to collect data. And so it's finding the right data, but we did find it's very, very different from country to country. And you just mentioned the German market. Many people know we have a privacy app specifically in Germany called Klar, and we tried to put some tools in it, including Adjust, and had to rip them out because of the absolute backlash that happened.
Wow. Okay.
That didn't happen here in North America.
Right.
Or anywhere else. So it is something that I think people should keep in mind, that attitudes toward privacy are very different from region to region. And
the other thing I would say is I think Mozilla is a brand that really is sort of on a pedestal for privacy. And so, right? And your users know that. And so you also have to sort of uphold the brand and figure out, what's viable from a brand perspective. Absolutely. I mean, I think in our use case, we have a slightly different brand. Our users are using it, slightly differently. And so, but that's always an important component to think about. And certainly market specific, per your point. Anyone else? Yeah?
Coming out of the previous chat, which was about re-engagement, I'm just wondering how these principles affect your re-engagement strategy. If you can speak to, does it affect if you use push or in-app messaging at all? Because you're trying to protect their privacy?
Yeah, and in fact, if you think about our use case, we have private contacts coming into the burner phone app. Yeah, we have a shared album, like pretty discrete shared album functionality in our photo vault. We're very discreet about notifications right now. We actually have 3 different modes in the burner phone app, and we actually don't have any right now in the photo vault app, and I think that poses problems for re-engagement. That makes our app a little bit more necessarily a utility app, and I think we're gonna probably over the next year try to, change the balance. But for the burner phone app, we actually just redesigned the notifications. We have 3 different versions. We have a standard version that gives you a little more metadata in the notification about who's calling or what the text message says. Then we have a private notification that just lets you know when you're in a private place, you can open up the notification. Then you can also turn off notifications. So we give users 3 different examples. But you're right that, from a re-engagement standpoint, there are a lot of challenges. I think the key is, though, giving people the choice and really designing for that private choice.
Yeah, my question is, being a privacy app, you have a lot of data about your users, and that not being able to use that definitely impacts your ability to monetize the app from an ad revenue side. Where do you see those trade-offs? Have you done any type of analysis on that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say we have a ton of data about our users because we really do try to minimize it, just as this gentleman said. From a monetization standpoint, we have a freemium model that's worked really well for us. So we offer a 30-day trial in our Photo Vault app, and you get to use all of the premium features. So I think you're probably right. If we were willing to sort of dig into the data that we do have, we could probably be more sophisticated, but there's a trade-off. And from a monetization standpoint, we've been profitable for a number of years. We're lucky that, the products monetize pretty well. People are willing to pay for privacy, especially today. Anyone else? All right, well, come and find me at the break. I want to hear more about what you're doing in your companies. Thanks a lot.